Hello and welcome to my third play of the Heart of Obsidian campaign with the Empire of Soga faction. Here you see the party, beginning with the Musha Blade Master, who has received no upgrade since the last game, so he has still the Bujutsu expertise and Kyutsu expertise to get Arms Master and Marksman class, including the +1 for his fencing combat ability and +1 for his archery. Next we have the Kitsune Spellmaiden. Since the last mission she received the first aid upgrade to become a bit more of a supporting character than she already is. And finally we have two Bushi attendants who each got a lucky charm, just to keep it simple with these two and make them still spammable and expandable, which is more important, but still give them a little bit of improvement over the last two games in the form of rerolls once per turn, not only for themselves but also for the enemies. Here we once again have the ruined settlement, and this is the part of the campaign where last time it ended with the 10 kingdoms, because here at the end we have to imagine an 8-inch high wall which leads to the alchemist's mansion, and the party was hired to infiltrate the mansion because last time when they handed over the artifact to the alchemist, since then he conducted a few experiments and destroyed the settlement he lives in. So now the party has two options to get over the wall. First is climbing over the wall, 8 inches as I said, which might require 2 turns, or they manage to get into contact with the 4-inch wide door, make an interact action, and then are able to open the door and go inside. For this rule, there are 2 gargoyles. One is right here, the second one is right there. These 2 will respawn if destroyed. Otherwise, we have 2 earth elementals in the center and 1 golem guarding the door. And with all that said, I will just deploy the party around 4 inches along this edge, and then I will let you join as soon as I start the first turn of the Empire of Soga. See you then. With the party deployed at the left side of the table edge, you can see that I try to position them in such a way that they are able to see this earth elemental, and this earth elemental at the right is most likely out of line of sight or out of reach. In this case of this Bushi, the earth elemental is out of line of sight. And in regards of the rest of the party, if we just put the rulers one at a time down at the field, we can see these are 12 inches, these are 18 inches, it's far out of reach. And with this earth elemental, we have here, we have the 12 inches, and just switching over to the white side because it's easier to see. We have the Musha Blade Master within 16 inches. So once he reacts or activates, the earth elemental will react. And this is the reason why I will wait with him. I will start with this Bushi attendant, and this Bushi attendant will just move 5 inches, will just use the run activation to move 10 inches. Basically, we are having 5 and 6, around 8 to 9 inches, which is enough to position him here, right next to the window. And this is just so that he can see a little bit more here in the area and maybe giving off a few pop shots. And just since I've jumped over the strategic phase, both of these will once again, as in previous games, go into a defensive stand. This is so that they can keep their 2 attacks with their short bows in their reactive row, and this is actually the reason I opted not to give them a longbow. I just measured out, and this Bushi attendant is within 16-inch range of this Earth Elemental, but he's in heavy cover. So this will be a confrontation because I want to activate him next to give one shot at the Earth Elemental, and it will react with its Hurl activation since he's within 16 inches and within line of sight. The Earth Elemental has an accuracy of 10, -4 for the heavy cover because it's a stone wall, needing a 6 or less, and with a roll of 2. The Bushi attendant now has to roll between 2 and his accuracy of 12. With a 6, he managed to roll above the 2 of the Earth Elemental, and therefore he hits it. Now, with a power of 13 minus the armor of 10, he needs a 3 or less to wound. With a roll of 6, he's unable to wound the Earth Elemental, but he took one activation of it, and he just wants to repeat the same procedure. This is basically just to get a few activations of the Earth Elemental, so therefore, Earth Elemental 6 or less. With a 16, it misses the Bushi attendant 12 or less, and also with a 16, he misses 2. So, that were these two. Now, the Musha Blade Master, the Musha Blade Master wants to activate, and this provides reaction of the Earth Elemental, which will begin with the Hurl activation, and this was the improvised activation token for this. So, since here is a clear line of sight, I would say, the Earth Elemental needs a 10 or less to hit, and with a roll of 2, it managed to hit the Musha Blade Master. Luckily, I checked beforehand that the Kitsune Spellmain is not within range of the small template, therefore the Musha Blade Master gets a hit with a power of 16 minus his armor of 2, 14 or less, and with a roll of 9, the Musha Blade Master would be wounded. If he managed to pass a toughness test with 13 or less, he's able to ignore this wound because of his Berserk class, and with a roll of 10, he just did it. So with this, he's able to do his move action or walk action just into cover, but since he was hit with the Hurl ability, which has the stagger trait, he loses another activation point. So therefore, he's out of activations immediately. And now, the Kitsune Spellmain will activate, and she's positioned in such a way that she's in heavy cover towards the Earth Elemental. I will just check if she's even in range. So these are 12 inches and 16. She's just out of reach. Therefore, she can activate. Spending activation point, she will just move out of line of sight and into cover, and she will try a Burning Resolve spell to basically transfer one activation point to the Musha Blade Master. With a roll of 18, she's unable, she needed a 15 or less. Her second activation, she tries the same again, and with a roll of 5, she's able to give the Musha Blade Master an activation point back, who will use it to stay idle and shoot at the Earth Elemental, which in turn will react by using its Hurl action. Both of these have heavy cover because of this wall. Therefore, the Earth Elemental needs a 6 or less. It's a 16. And the Musha Blade Master, because he has the Kyutsu expertise, gains the marksman ability class. He stood idle, he gets a +4, -4 because of heavy cover. Therefore, net 0 modification, and he has an accuracy of 12 or less. And with a 13, he just missed out at this chance. So, this Bushi attendant still has an activation point, but since he has no line of sight because of this wall towards the Earth Elemental, I will just skip his activation and I will catch you at the hostiles' first turn. Looking at the battlefield after I already moved a few hostiles, as you can see, this gargoyle moved from between the door up it's 10 inches, it took the run activation, and also the golem moved from the door with 2 activations and run actions closer towards the closest enemy, some of these. And this gargoyle just moved out from this rune using the climb and jump abilities to get here into line of sight of this bushy attendant, who will just react using his warrior, his defense stance, and shoot with his short bow at the gargoyle. The gargoyle can't react, can't use a dodge action because it used the run. Therefore, the bushy attendant is unopposed and he needs 12 or less with each of the rolls. It's a 9 and a 14, therefore 1 hit. Power of 13, the gargoyle has an armor of 5, therefore he needs an 8 or less. With a natural 20, he missed his opportunity to harm the gargoyle. And next, I will once again activate this gargoyle, and he wants to target the model with the lowest HP, which will be the Kitsune Spellmaiden. And as we can see here, with 6 inches, he would get the engaged state with the Musha Blademaster because his sword has a 1-inch range. But it will still try to get into close combat with the Kitsune Spellmaiden, which will provide a reaction of the bushy attendant. The Musha Blademaster will save his reaction just so that he can possibly attack the Earth Elemental and get into a confrontation. And should the gargoyle survive the shots of the bushy attendant, the Kitsune will react as soon as the gargoyle is atop the ruin by using a dodge action. But before that, this will be 6 inches. So basically it will be around 8 inches. The wall is, let's just see, about 3 inches tall. So this will be 6, 9, 12 inches. The gargoyle would be able to get here down. So as soon as the gargoyle is atop, she will dodge away. But before that, 2 hits of the bushy attendant, or attacks, he rolled a 16 and a 6, therefore 1 hit. And with a 6, he's beneath an 8. So he is able to destroy the gargoyle, which will return at the next strategic phase of the hostiles. And that's the reason why I put it aside. But the Kitsune Spellmaiden is once again safe for now. So now we will focus at this Earth Elemental, which will attack the Musha Blademaster. Therefore, let me just take an activation point, and the Musha Blademaster will also activate and attack the Earth Elemental in return. Therefore, another confrontation, because both will suffer from the heavy cover. The Earth Elemental needs a 6, and since it's not the active phase of the Musha Blademaster, he will need an 8 or less. So the Earth Element, 6 or less, it's a natural 1. The Musha Blademaster has a 4. The natural 1 is enough to win this confrontation and hit the Musha Blademaster, who just manages to scratch the Kitsune 2. That was a mispositioning. Therefore, it's a 14 for the Musha Blademaster and a 16 or less for the Kitsune Spellmaiden. The Kitsune Spellmaiden is a 13, which would wound her. And for the Musha Blademaster, it's a 15 and it would need a 14 loss. So the Musha Blademaster is okay, but he was hit, therefore he loses an activation point. The Kitsune Spellmaiden was not only hit, but she was also wounded. And since she only has 1 hit point, she is incapacitated, which is a really bad start. And now the Earth Elemental will just repeat its activation and will hit the Musha Blademaster again, needing a 6 or less. It's a 14, therefore it misses the Musha Blade Master, which actually might have saved the Kitsune Spellman's life. The other Earth Elemental stays idle because it is outside, because it has line of sight to the Musha Blade Master, but since, let me just double check that. Actually, I have to be corrected. It has no line of sight, therefore it will also activate. And because it has no line of sight, it will use a walk action with its 4 inches towards the closest enemy. Therefore, it will walk up to here, because this bushy attendant is the closest enemy. So, and now, just double checking. These are 12. It's within 16 inches, therefore another hurl action. With a 15 it misses, and the next one it will once again activate and use the hurl action. This time it's a 6, hitting once again the Bushi Attendant and the Kitsune Spellman. Not Bushi Attendant, the Musha Blade Master. Musha Blade Master 14 or less. With a roll of 4, he is wounded. And the Kitsune Spellman, with a roll of 7, she's dead. And this causes her to be unable to use the first aid kit I just purchased for her. And yeah, this is a big blow against the Empire of Soga. So, now, with the wounded Musha Blade Master and a dead Kitsune Spellmaiden, we still have a Gargoyle to activate. He will use its activation to get towards the model with the lowest HP, which in this case, normally, since only models with 2 HP are left, it will be the Musha Blade Master because he's wounded. So with this, we have 4 inches to here and 4 inches 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. The Gargoyle will get up to this position. So, with this efficient turn of the hostiles, even when they lose one Gargoyle, they manage to kill the Kitsune Spellmaiden. So there's no return for her, and I will just prepare the next turn for the Empire of Soga, and I'll see you then. So, I'm unsure if the Empire of Soga is able to win this, because with my experience with the Sand Kingdoms, this was actually a devastating blow. Also that the Musha Blade Master is already wounded. So I think, even when I said it otherwise in the introduction, I think that the Bushi attendants will try to make a run for the wall or the door, depending on how the following turns will play out. And the Musha Blade Master will become the expendable piece. And I hope that both of the Bushi attendants are able to use their lucky charms very efficient. But before that, I will begin with the Musha Blade Master, who will try to attack the Gargoyle, which will provide an activation of the Gargoyle and the Earth Elemental. The Earth Elemental will add... let me just check the reaction of the Earth Elemental. It will reaction step, not engage in melee, and there's more than one enemy with an awareness. It isn't the case. Attack of a melee attack, line of sight within 60 inches. That's the reaction I was referring to. So, with this, the Earth Elemental will activate, attack the Musha Blade Master. The Musha Blade Master will activate, attacking the Gargoyle, and the Gargoyle will just react by dodging towards the Musha Blade Master. So, with this, it gets 2.5 inches closer, and following this I will just start with the Musha Blade Master, who stays idle and uses the stagger ability because of archery 2, at the gargoyle in hope to reduce its activations. With a 9, he's able to hit the gargoyle at least, so therefore it automatically loses an activation point. And since it's a bow, he has a power of 16 instead of 13. Therefore he needs an 11 or less to destroy the gargoyle. And with a natural 20 he fails. So now the Earth Elemental will see if it is able to hit the Musha Blade Master, needing a 6 or less. With a roll of 14 it misses. And since the gargoyle is currently no problem because it is out of activations, I think I was thinking about hitting the Earth Elemental, but since it is more than 2 sizes larger than the Musha Blade Master, I think the stagger ability will not activate, so therefore he will once again stay idle and shoot at the gargoyle, provoking another reaction of the Earth Elemental. This time I will begin with the Earth Elemental. With a 19, it misses. Therefore, now the Musha Blade Master needing 16 or less to hit the gargoyle. It's a natural 20, even worse. So with this, the Musha Blade Master at least managed to take 2 activations of the Earth Elemental. As you can see here, I already put the rulers next to the edge because I was thinking about 1 inch movement here. Then, when he's at the ball, it is his size, so he can just jump over, and then 1, 2, 3, 4 inches for his first activation, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for his second part if he uses the run activation. But as soon as he's around this point, the Earth Elemental has a clear line of sight because of the doorway, and I think I will just risk it. As I said, I hope that the lucky charms of the Bushi attendants will save them some rolls. So it's around this point that the Earth Elemental has clear line of sight, and it will use its activation because this should be 16 inches. Therefore 10 or less to hit. It's a roll of 5. The Bushi attendant will use his lucky charm for this turn, and it paid off. With a 14, the Earth Elemental missed the Bushi attendant. Now it's once again clear line of sight, and this should be still above 8 inches. Yeah, it is clearly above 8 inches. So with this, that would be a 10 or less. Let me just put the activation point next to the Bushi attendant. The other Bushi attendant, what will he do? Currently he's in a safe spot from this Earth Elemental. He could attack the gargoyle and hope to destroy it, buying some time. Another gargoyle will spawn in the hostile's turn here, most likely attacking this Bushi attendant. Yeah, I'm a little bit clueless, as you can see here. I will just make a run for it. I think I will use the other direction. So, with no plan to speak of, let's try it. So these are 6 inches, which will provide an activation from both Earth Elementals, 1 and 2. I would say against this he has cover. So let's see. 6 or less. It's an 8. This Earth Elemental misses. This Earth Elemental has a clear line of sight. Therefore 10 or less. It's a 2. He uses his lucky charm to force the Earth Elemental to reroll. It's a 14. That paid off. 2. Therefore he finishes his movement around here, just to keep the Earth Elemental line of sight and not getting the penalty of halving his agility score. The same, I just turned this one because I forgot the rule about if you are unable to see the attacker, you halve your value. So, but with this Earth Elemental is out of activation points. This Earth Elemental is out of reach to this Bushi attendant. Therefore, this bushy attendant, since the gargoyle will just, regardless spawn 9 and 9 inches from these two edges, I think this bushy attendant just has to keep a little bit out of the golem's activation, which might prove to be difficult, because the golem with 12 inches is basically able to get really far in regard of this. With this thought, I will just activate this bushy attendant, which provides a reaction of the earth elemental. The earth elemental once again holds at the bushy attendant, who is he outside of 8 inches, or will he give the earth elemental +4? He is within 10 inches, therefore no +4 for the earth elemental. 10 or less, it's an 18. The bushy attendant is once again safe. So here we have 6 inches, and now we have, with this, another 4 inches. Just staying outside of the 6 inches. And with this, let me just get it around the table and see if you could say that this will be, yeah, I would reason that this here, because this wall is partially in the way, is heavy cover because it's a wall, even when it is not, yeah, you could argue that it is not half of the model, but in this instant, because the Empire of Sogas is already really beaten up, I would say it's okay if we agree, or I will agree, that this is heavy cover. Now, this bushy attendant in his active role, since I just used the run activations, I really should have put both of them into the defense stance using their warrior class. And since this is a solo play, and I'm the one only playing 1, 2, 3, 4, I will allow myself to do this. I think I would argue that if I had thought a little bit more about it and would have not recorded it, and I do not want you guys to be waiting 4 minutes, that I will just allow them to put them into defense stance retroactively. So with this, both are in the reactive stance. I'm out of activation points, and I will just prepare the hostiles turn and see you then. Looking at the board at the hostiles turn, we see that a gargoyle just spawned next to the bushy attendant, and that I think it's safe to say that this Musha Blade Master and this bushy attendant really have problems with one gargoyle each. This bushy attendant will get attacked by the golem too. This earth elemental has the freedom to choose who it wants to attack, and I think I will start with these two participants, because here, as I said previously, this will be heavy cover. So I think that in the earth element's first activation, the bushy attendant will just react by using his defense stance to get into a confrontation with the earth elemental, because the earth elemental needs a 6 and he needs an 8 to hit with 2 dice. So I guess that this is a better chance. So the earth elemental needing a 6, and it just rolled a 9. Come on, let me get it into focus. Here it is, a 9. So needing an 8 or less, the bushy attendant rolled a 6 and a 14, so with a 6 he actually managed to win this confrontation, and with a 17 he fails, but this was not for wounding the earth elemental, this was to staying alive. So in the next confrontation, the next activation of the earth elemental, the bushy attendant actually will try to dodge the hurl. So the earth elemental needing once again a 6 or less, it's a 9. So the bushy attendant will just skip his roll and move 2.5 inches closer towards his goal, which is still far away. So now I will begin with this gargoyle. The gargoyle tries to move into contact with the bushy attendant, and this bushy attendant will react by attacking the gargoyle. The gargoyle in turn will attack as soon as he's in contact, but let's begin with the bushy attendant. Using a ranged attack as before the gargoyle can start to move, 17 and 18, which is not good at all. I was hoping it would at least get one hit, and now I'm thinking about, he's in his reactive role. He still has let me see when the lucky charm will allow to music. During its own strategic phase, a model with a grenade, the model may expend a record to reroll any one die in its active sequence. So no reroll, therefore the gargoyle gets into contact, and now it has 2 attacks with its gargoyle claws. An offense of 12, therefore 12 or less to hit. 15 and 17. I just get it a little bit here. 15 and 17. Therefore no hit for the gargoyle. And now it once again tries to attack the bushy attendant, and this time the bushy attendant will react by attacking the gargoyle too. Therefore this will be a confrontation, and since he's in defense stance, he will also have 2 attacks. So the bushy attendant with 2 attacks will set a lower bar, therefore 10 or less, because he has a defense of 10. 2 9s. So the gargoyle has to roll between 9 and 12, a really small window. But with an 11, the gargoyle 11 and a 15, the gargoyle actually managed to beat the 9 of the bushy attendant and managed to get a hit. And with a 15, it's above its power of 13, so the gargoyle is unable to wound the bushy attendant. But let's just see. The gargoyle claws have an effect. If I get it into focus so that we all can read it. Come on, here. When this model deals a wound, the wounded model loses an activation point. So only if it wounds, since there was no wound, the gargoyle does not get an additional activation. But now the golem will use its run activation. Will activate to run into contact with the bushy attendant, and in its second activation it will use its Fist of Stone to attack. So therefore it has also 2 attacks. It needs a 10 or less. 7 and 12, therefore 1 hit. It has a power of 15 minus the armor 4 of the bushy attendant. It's 11 or less. And with a roll of 6, come on, get into focus. With a roll of 6, the bushy attendant is wounded. Now, what are we doing here? I think it will start with the Earth Elemental holding 2 rocks, and then the gargoyle trying to finish off the Musha Blade Master. So, beginning with the first activation of the Earth Elemental, the Musha Blade Master actually will spend a reaction to dodge and get outside of line of sight of the Earth Elemental, just to avoid an additional hit. So, first of all, Earth Elemental, 6 or less. It's an 11, so I'll use this to move with the Musha Blade Master just out line of sight and into, behind the Kitsune spell main. So, without a line of sight, let me just grab a ruler. It's within 6 inches, therefore the gargoyle has to spend its first activation to use the run action. As soon as the gargoyle is above the wall, the Musha Blade Master will react with a shot. It's a natural 20, so the gargoyle gets into base contact and it will activate, attacking the Musha Blade Master with 2 attacks. 16 and 11, therefore it is 1 hit with its offense value of 12. It has a power of 12. The Musha Blade Master has an armor of 2, therefore 10 or less. It's a 12. The armor saved the Musha Blade Master's life. So now this elemental could attack him, but it would risk friendly fire. I think that I will just don't do it, because the hostiles have this game, I think, or at least that's what I'm assuming, in their pocket. So with this, let me just prepare the Empire of Sogas turn, and I'll catch you then. With the activation points placed, just so that you know, I only have here 3 activation points because I have too few activation points to put every model at the correct number, so therefore after the first activation it will get an activation point. But I decided that all of the remaining Empire of Soga models will go into defense stance, just so to increase their chance of survival. And I will actually begin with something interesting. Just let me grab some dice. Here, the Bushi Attendant tries to use the dodge action to cancel the engage state with the Gargoyle and the Golem, and both of these will attack. Since it's their reactive turn, they will use their defensive stat. The Gargoyle has a defense stat of 8, but the Golem has a defense stat of 13. So with this, the Bushi Attendant will activate, just putting a 4th token there. The Bushi Attendant needs a 10 or less to dodge. He has a 4, so therefore the Gargoyle and the Golem need a critical hit. The Golem has an 11, the Gargoyle has a 14, no critical hit. And with this, the Bushi Attendant is able to dodge 2.5 inches away. He is out of range. And now he will... These would be around 4 inches to the wall. So with his run activation, he would have 3 inches left. He would be at the wall, 3 inches. Vulnerable to the hurl activations of the Earth Elemental. The Gargoyle has the clamp ability, so even at the wall, the Gargoyle is able to attack the Bushi Attendant. I think he will now activate and use his movement to get here. He will just use a run activation, getting towards here into contact, but I would argue that he is outside of line of sight of the Earth Elemental. So at least he only has to deal with the Gargoyle and the Golem. With that, quite peaceful encounter, we will go here. As I said, the Musha Blade Master is also in a defense stance, and he will nevertheless attack the Gargoyle. So normally, since he's now, because of the defense stance, has only a strike value of 1, but he's an arms master, so he gets a second attack on it. The Gargoyle only has 1, and for his first activation, I think I will use the Fencing 3 to get another attack, just to be able to hopefully strike down the Gargoyle. The Gargoyle setting the bar with a 7, it is beneath, it is lower than its defense of 8. Therefore, the Musha Blade Master needs to roll between 8 and 14. It's a natural 1, a 10 and a 14, so all hit. And the 1 is even a critical hit, ignoring the Gargoyle's armor. The 2 normal hits, needing a power of 13, armor of 5, needing 8 or less. 16 and 4, the Gargoyle is already down. The natural crit with an 18 wouldn't do anything, so therefore this Gargoyle is destroyed and will return at the hostile's next strategic phase. And with this, he has still an activation left. He will just chance it. And similar to the Bushi Attendant, who's already at the door, 6 inches and another 4. He will run as soon as he's here. The Earth Elemental will react with a Hurl activation. With a 10, it managed to hit him because, as I said previously, this, because of the archway, is a clear line of sight. It hits the Musha Blade Master, power 16, armor 2, 14 or less. It's a 2. Now he can use his Berserker ability, needing a 13 or less to resist the damage. Natural 1, he shrugs it off and continues. So, just out of line of sight of the Earth Elemental, here with the corner still providing cover. In a similar fashion, here at the back of the table, this Bushy Attendant will begin with using a run action, and as soon as he's out of cover, the Earth Elemental will hurl a rock, just positioning some dice there. It will use its first hurl activation. Let me just see how far he can get with his 10 inches. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So with this, since this Earth Elemental has its front arc towards this direction, I think that only this Earth Elemental is able to react one time. So, lucky for this Bushy Attendant, the Earth Elemental, needing it, I think this is within 8 inches. It is within 8 inches. Therefore, it gets a bonus of +4, needing a 14 or less. It's a 4. He uses his Lucky Charm to force it to reroll, and with a 7 it still hits. Therefore, he loses automatically his second activation point, which was not a smart move. He should dodge before. And with a 3, he is wounded. Then he continues 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. In his wounded state, let me just put a wound token next to him. And here we are at the end of the Empire of Sogas turn. All are wounded, and let me just get the hostiles up to for their turn, and we will see what happens. If I had to put money on if this will be the last turn of the Empire of Soga, I would definitely do that. Why? Let's see. This Earth Elemental will start its activation, and it will move 4 inches, 1, 2, 3, 4, towards this Bushy Attendant. And then it will use a hurl activation. I think it is better, question mark, if he uses this to try to dodge. So the Earth Elemental misses with a 16. Here it is. So he's able to dodge 2.5 inches, getting here, a little bit further away. Now he needs to get outside of 5 inches to avoid another attack of the Earth Elemental in melee. So with this, the Earth Elemental will once again activate, and the Bushy Attendant will try to dodge this too. Let me just double check. Yeah, offense of 12. It's similar to the Gargoyle. So as soon as the Earth Elemental gets into contact within 1 inch, it will try to attack with 2 attacks with its Earthen Fists, needing a 12 or less. 5 and 13, 1 hit. Dodging at the 10, it's a 2. So he was able to dodge this attack and gets 1, 2.5 inches further away, but still keeping the Gargoyle in his front arc. So now, out of activations, the Gargoyle, I will just remove both activation points because the Gargoyle will jump into contact. With no reaction of this Bushy Attendant, 16 and 19 both miss the second activation. 7, 10 and 11. 11 would hit. It will try to wound him with a power of 12 minus armor 4, 8 or less. It's a 5. The Bushy Attendant uses his Lucky Charm to reroll it. It's a 6, he's still wounded, and with this he is incapacitated. As I assumed, this basically puts him out of action. So, next here. The golem will use its run action to get nearly into contact. Since it is a large creature, I assume that it is able to jump over the wall without any difficulties. Just checking the golem's stat card. It has a reach with its Fist of Stone of 0, as we can see here. So, with this, excuse me, it will activate again and get into contact with the Bushy Attendant. The Bushy Attendant will not react this, just to save up for the gargoyle. So, 2 attacks, needing a 10 or less to hit. It's a 5 and a 10, both hit. Now the golem has a power of 15, needing 11 or less to wound. 12 and 17, this gamble paid off. Now, the gargoyle. It will use 6 inches, yeah, it will use 10 inches to get into contact with the Bushy Attendant. Now it will attack, since here the Bushy Attendant will try to get a dodge action. I'm not sure how the rules are in this case, because seeing this, he's unable to move in either direction. So with this, he's basically forced to fight. He's unable to move one way or another, so he will spend one activation, run of his reaction to attack the gargoyle in return. So this will be a confrontation. The Bushy needing 10 or less. A 10 and an 11, therefore the 10 is enough. And now the gargoyle needs to roll 10 or between 10 and 12. 17 and 13, so the Bushy Attendant actually wins this confrontation. The gargoyle has an armor of 5. The Bushy has a power of 13, so 8 or less. It's a 4. He was able to destroy the gargoyle because of his defense stance. He is a side of a light, or line of hope. Not sure about the saying, but I hope you get what I was trying to say. And with this, the Earth Elemental will just move and then hurl at the Musha Blade Master, who in return tries to attack the Earth Elemental. Therefore, accuracy, it will actually move a little bit closer. Just let me see. Yeah, this will be within 8 inches. So the Earth Elemental needs a 14. The Musha Blade Master, because it's a ranged accuracy of 12. So 14 for the Earth Elemental. It's an 11. 12 for the Musha Blade Master. And with this, I think, since 12 or less is enough, yeah, the Musha Blade Master actually has won this confrontation. So power of 16, armor of 10, 6 or less. Sadly it's a 9. So next, the Earth Elemental once again tries to attack, and the Musha Blade Master once again attacks back. So 14 or less for the Earth Elemental. It's an 11, and the Musha Blade Master, can he pull off it again? With a 13, sadly no. So the Earth Elemental hits him. Power of 16, armor of 2, 14 or less. It is enough. I think the Musha Blade... No, he actually used it this turn when he was back at the... back in his turn, because he was hit this instance. So with this, he's unable to use the Berserker rule again. And he too becomes incapacitated. So, unable to help his friend. I will just get into the activation of this Bushy Attendant. This Earth Elemental has line of sight. It is within 6, 12, and 15 inches currently. 17, sorry. 12 plus 5 is 17. So out of reach towards him, so he has to only deal with this golem. So his first activation will be that he will try to dodge and cancel the engagement state. The earth element, the golem will attack 13 or less. 17 it misses, therefore able to dodge here. Sadly, this was his activation. And now let's just double check. Here we have 6, 12. Now he's in range of this earth elemental. So his second activation, when he tries to open the doors with his interact action, the earth elemental needs an 10 or less to hit. It's a 3. Just putting the wound token here. It will be 60, power of 60 minus armor 4, 12 or less, and the game ends. It's a 7. He's also incapacitated, and with this, the game ends. A dead Kitsune Spell Maiden, incapacitated, 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 and now the earthen creatures have won the second attempt of this campaign. Let me just clean up a little bit and get back to you to discuss this game. So I cleaned up the board, had some time to think about this mission, and I think I've come to a conclusion. Let's start with the first question. How did I play the game? Horribly. I made major mistakes right at the beginning, not checking if the Kitsune Spellmain was within the small template reach of the Musha Blade Master, which basically killed her. Then after that, I think I continued making major mistakes by not thinking through it, as I retroactively allowed myself to put the both Bushi attendants into the defense stance. So yeah, I think I was, after the death of the Kitsune Spellmain, I was a bit in panic because I wanted to win this mission. And I think this has led me to making the same mistake I previously did with the Sand Kingdoms. And I think my mistake was that I tried to overwhelm the earthen creatures. In the previous 2 missions, I was able to get the advantage in regard of activations, so that I always had more activations than the hostiles, that the hostiles only had 1 or 2 models, so basically 2 to 4 activations to use. Or in the first mission with the Earth Elemental, I tried to focus down the Earth Elemental to get this advantage. And here the problem is you have 2 Earth Elementals, 4 reactions each, therefore 8. A golem with 2 and 2 gargoyles with 2 each. This is a total of 14 reactions you have to deal in a turn, which is basically an equivalent of 7 other models in the Sand Kingdoms and the Empire of Soga. I think I failed to see that until after this quest. And I think with the next faction I will try the Heart of Obsidian campaign. I will not try to focus down 1 or 2 enemies to get this advantage. I will try to be a little bit more strategic about my movement game, about my positioning. And I think that's what I have learned, at least from this third quest and second failure. Do I think that the third quest is badly designed? I do not think so. I think this is a really interesting, even if it is a difficult quest. And I think I fell in the trap. Maybe it was intentionally, maybe it wasn't. But I think the trap in this quest, in comparison to the previously 2, is that you think you can outdo the enemy in terms of activations, and you can just brute force it, similar as I did with the Sand Kingdoms, where I used my spells to try to wither them down. Here I tried to use the above average stat lines of the Bushi Attendants and the Musha Blade Master, and both times I fell flat because I was unable to do it quickly enough. Because the earthen creatures are really tough, with the gargoyles have an armor value of 5, the golem of 8, and the earth elementals of 10, and in addition the regeneration trait. So putting the earth elementals down without anything in regards of armor piercing or ignoring armor, it's really difficult. And in the mission, or in the beginning of the Heart of Obsidian campaign, the designers especially write it down that if you're playing Empire of Soga, you should invest in some equipment and upgrades that allow you to get the armor piercing trait, because they knew that this quest, played with the earth creatures and their high armor value, it's really difficult for the Empire of Soga. And I think the problem also was that in the first two missions, my bushy attendants really destroyed the earthen creatures just by luck. And in this mission, luck wasn't enough to carry me through. So I really had fun playing this mission, even when I lost it a second time. And I hope when I try this campaign, Heart of Obsidian, the next time with a different faction, that I will remember this lection, this lection I just learned. So with this, I hope you had fun watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!